Good morning, friends. This is your personal wake-up call from Ron Burgundy. Hey, lazy, wake up!
Are you kidding me?
The Gigi's fans are stunned in silence.
They get it in deep to Turnbull. Stu Turnbull for the win.
Welcome everyone to OUA Today, episode 16. We are happening right now at the OUA Honor Awards. Marshall Ferguson here alongside McMaster Athletics Director Glen Grunwald. Glen, thank you for being here. Before I begin, should mention as well how to follow us anytime you want, because this is going out on radio, on YouTube, and also going up on iTunes, at OUA Today on Twitter, at Marsh2Fergs, and Glen has a Twitter account, which is not very well known. I've been trying to get it blown up lately because he is a great follow on Twitter if you get a chance. Tell everyone what your Twitter handle is.
I don't even know. I think it's at Grunwald/Glen.
We'll find it and we'll send it out from OUA Today because it is a good follow. It's fun having you on Twitter because I think it's one of those things where sometimes you have necessarily a new executive or a new administration member, and sometimes when you are not in the millennial age group, you might not jump into that Twitter sphere.
Well, Marshall, you liked one of my videos that I posted, and you were the one person that liked it. And if you just go to my website to look at this video, it's an 89-year-old veteran from the Kansas Jayhawks football team running for a touchdown in their alumni flag football game. It's amazing.
It was very amazing. And again, I spoke to you off camera about it, but it was the whole concept of the NCAA doing this with different people who have, there was a Down syndrome individual who did it, I believe, at the University of Southern California not long ago. There was Jack Donahue, a young 8-year-old boy who was struggling with cancer, brain cancer, I believe, that did it at the Nebraska spring game. But to have an 89-year-old doing it with people diving around, and the best part is, and you'll appreciate this, is as a high-level athlete and a former decade, we'll say, you can still see him throwing the head fakes and trying to make moves because
he was definitely a former football player.
You know that his body is used to that kind of movement pattern. So it's very fun. Check it out, and we will hook it up with sending it out from OUA Today. But I have you here at the OUA Honor Awards because I want to talk to you a little bit about your first year. Touch on a little bit maybe of the NBA playoffs because obviously great involvement in the NBA. What is kind of your takeaway from your first year in the OUA? Because you've been around and you've seen it and you've lived in Toronto and you've been around Hamilton, but now that you're inside the walls of the OUA, how has your first year been?
It's been wonderful. Well, athletically we did very well. We had a great football team thanks to you and your teammates.
It wasn't thanks to me. I had a lot of good guys around me. So.
We had three other OUA championships, so it was great fun to be part of that. To get to know the young people, the student athletes on our campus are just really a set of wonderful people. Our coaches, great coaches, and they're dedicated to their craft, and it's great to be able to work with them. We have our challenges, but I tell you what, we do so much good stuff. I think we just need to tell our story, get out there so people understand all the good things that are going on at McMaster and across the OUA.
I'll hit you with the hardball question second. Here we go. You were kind of handed a very well put together situation. I think you would agree that Jeff Giles put in a lot of work, did a lot of great things. It's almost as if you're an NBA executive and you've been handed a team that's made the NBA Finals 6 times in the last 10 years. And where do you go from there, right? Because the expectations are now so high that how do you take that to the next level? Because the next level is so marginal compared to what some other programs have to deal with.
Right, normally in a sports job, you take over a situation that's been struggling and they're making a change to try and improve it.
Right.
Here the change was for a different reason. So you're right, Jeff did a great job, and before Jeff, Therese Quigley, who's now Western.
Yeah.
So, we have obviously room for improvement. No championships at the CIS level, so there's something there. But also just improving the student athlete experience that we offer people that attend McMaster University, I think is important, so that they have a great experience and can feel very good about the time they spend at McMaster University.
What is something that you've learned now that you are working inside the athletics office at McMaster that perhaps when you were being interviewed or considered for the job you weren't aware of? Something that when you actually got inside you said, oh wow, this is the way that this operation works, or something that kind of stood out to you now that you are several months into the job?
I think it's the breadth of our operation. Not only is it all the sports we offer, some 30 sports at various levels, but also the intramural programs, the instructional programming, the amount of community users we have in our various facilities, whether it's junior football or swim teams. all the stuff that goes on there, it truly is amazing, the breadth of the operation that we have. We almost stage our own mini Pan Am games every weekend sometimes in the fall.
Yes, it's very true. I always say on our OUA Today radio show, covering the OUA is like an 8-month-long Olympics. And there's male, female sports going on all over the place, and it's very difficult sometimes to get a grasp for the entire kind of circumference of what's going on inside the OUA. So that would definitely be something I imagine that would jump out to you. But if you had to pick your favorite moment, one moment in time that was your favorite from the year, what would it be?
You're going to think I'm just, brown-nosing here a little bit, but no, it was my first day on the job, September 1st, Labor Day. McMaster playing Guelph. We're down big in the whole game. It looks like, oh my goodness. I came here and turning things around to be discussed, but it turns out
your quarterback
back, we win in overtime, and Marshall Ferguson runs it in. That was the amazing part. That was a great event for me, and it's just showed that the culture, our team, they were winners. They had that DNA championship culture, and then to be able to come back and win a game like that was very exciting for me and a real pleasure to watch.
That was the Grunwald effect on McMaster football. The first day, this guy is able to pull some type of athleticism out of his body that he's never had in his life and never had since. I'm glad to hear that was a great moment for you. And the heat on the field that day.
Yeah, it was hot.
It was incredible. It was one of those things where I was in the game and I had no idea what the heat was, and then we got to the media scrum afterwards, and they said, so it was 42 degrees out there and blah, blah, blah on the turf. What did you think? I said, really? It's 42 degrees? I had no idea because you're oblivious inside the moment.
Right.
Was there a time when you were playing basketball at the University of Indiana where you went into a post-game scrum or you went into a post-game moment in the locker room with your guys and something was a blur that was actually a major moment and you had no idea that it had happened? Whether it was in a national championship or otherwise where, maybe a guy fouled out and you had no idea that he had fouled out of a game or that a coach had got a technical or someone had been ejected or...
Well, it was, I think, a game at Iowa. My last year, maybe my second to last year, 1980. Isaiah Thomas was on the team.
Yep.
And he punched a player on the other team so quickly that no one noticed it. And the player was down on the ground, and then we had to go back and look at the film, and it was, that's what happened.
Really?
So, yeah, he was a tough player, Isaiah Thomas, and it was an interesting situation.
What was he like as a teammate at Indiana? Aside from the competitive nature of him, obviously he went on to be with the Bad Boys and the whole history of him being an executive in some different places, but in practice, what is Isaiah Thomas like when you played with him at Indiana?
Well, Isaiah was a great leader. He really picked out the guys on the team that needed to play better, and he really worked with them, encouraged them, pushed them. And his leadership was a key ingredient in the 1981 NCAA National Championship team. He never talked to me, never encouraged me for obvious reasons. But he picked out a guy like Landon Turner and really encouraged him. Now, Landon Turner was a great player. He had never played very much before, but with Isaiah there, the encouragement and his own work, he turned into a great player. So he would have been a long-time NBA All-Star had Landon not gotten injured. That's an unfortunate part.
Yeah, definitely. What did you take from your time as a university athlete that you can now apply to your experience as a university administrator?
Well, just my own experience about how important athletics was to me at the time I was going through it, and what it meant to me, and what it still means to me this day. So to understand you're making a big difference in young people's lives, and something that's not only going to be critical to them while they're doing it, but even afterwards.
Right.
And I'm not talking about the life experiences, which are important. It's just in terms of the importance to that individual and how much it means to them to take that responsibility very seriously.
You were the part of the last undefeated national championship team, is that correct?
No, that was the year before.
That was before
you? I arrived and turned it right around.
Okay, I was going to say, because I know that stat...
But I was rooting for people to beat Kentucky just because the Hoosiers, the Indiana Hoosiers, were the last undefeated team.
I was going to say, if that was the case, because that stat was thrown around, there was some miscommunication on, I was going to ask if you were like Don Shula every time someone loses in the NFL, popping bottles somewhere with your boys from the Hoosiers.
No, I was happy about it, but no champagne flowed.
That's good. Switch gears a little bit here. NBA, your connection with them. I wanted to ask you, based on something that popped up and was interesting to me as you as a former executive in the NBA with the Toronto Raptors, among other places, the New York Knicks, most recently as the general manager, looking at guys going into the NFL draft. There was La'el Collins, who was questioned in connection with the murder of his ex-girlfriend. Aaron Hernandez, the Patriots said, we did all the due diligence in the world that we possibly could, and they still said that they didn't really understand his background. They were shocked by what happened afterwards. When you were an executive in the NBA and you were looking at drafting someone, how much research do you do on their background, their off-court, and try to get to know the person above all else?
Well, incredible amount, actually. So you do a lot of interviews with people that had worked with them, and played with them, and coached them, back to high school, family, find out about the family situation, and what's important. You know, obviously criminal background checks and things of that nature. They do some psychological testing, so it's very important. And you know, sometimes you miss on a player that turns out to be pretty good. I remember when I was in Toronto, I forgot the exact year, but Zach Randolph was in the draft. He was available to us, but he had just been arrested for some gun possession charges.
Yep.
So I said, I'm sorry, I can't draft Zach in that position. And we took someone else that didn't quite work out, unfortunately. But, you know, that's the kind of stuff you have to make decisions. Fortunately, Zach turned his life around.
Yep.
He was a good guy. He actually worked with him when he was at the Knicks briefly.
Right.
So it doesn't always hold true, but sometimes you make those decisions because they are important. Character is such an important thing. Ultimately, if someone with bad character is going to catch up with you, it's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
No matter how talented, ultimately you're not winning someone with bad character.
When you see someone like Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, and again, NBA, NFL, different worlds, but also very similar in terms of the executive side and having to make those tough decisions. When you see someone like Jerry Jones who is looking at a Randy Gregory at Nebraska with a marijuana violation and looking at a Lael Collins who goes undrafted because he's just untouchable to most teams, and you see teams like that consistently signing guys that have that kind of questionable character, I think we can say, does that scare the hell out of you as a former executive where you look at it and you say, I don't know how you can get away with that or how you can improve that past A, B, and C?
Well, you know, people do deserve second chances sometimes.
Yep.
So you have to understand where they're at and how they reacted to their past troubles. So, I mean, you can't write off someone's entire life because they made one or two mistakes, but you have to really sort of get behind that and try and understand, is that a character flaw that can't be fixed, or is that a mistake made by a young person that, you know, with proper guidance and commitment on their part, things can be turned around. They can actually be a contributing member to a good winning culture.
I can't let you get away without talking a little bit about the Raptors. I know this is probably your 5,000th post-playoffs interview where people have said, what happened to Glenn? But, but the reality is, it was disappointing. I know you watch hoops all year long. I talked to you during the season. You said you're following along. If you are Masai Ujiri at the trade deadline, in hindsight, with everything 2020, do you make any changes?
Maybe, yeah, maybe you try and do something different now that you have the benefit of having a poor second half of the season after the All-Star break, a losing record, and then being swept in the playoffs. You know, obviously, you might go back and say, well, if I know what I knew then, what would I change differently? And I think they were looking for some veteran presence. I think they were, you know, rumors were there after some pretty good veterans there. But no, it's a process that he's going through. So this is the second year that they've been successful, and so obviously they want to improve further. And they have a whole offseason to improve. They have some cap room, a draft choice, so they'll be able to do some things, and I think they'll be better.
Yeah, they have pieces moving forward, and you know the Boston Celtics seem like they're on possibly a bit of an upswing. They've got all sorts of picks and different things to work with, but the idea has floated around lately, and you probably know more about it than I do, and you're slightly more connected in the NBA than I, but the idea of scrapping divisions. Is that something that you think is positive, negative, and indifferent in terms of seeding and possibly having teams in a CFL style where you could cross over from the Western Conference, maybe even if you're a higher seed, because as we know, the Western Conference was so much better than the East this year?
And historically it's been better.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think so. I think, you know, even though the Western Conference has been better overall, the champions more often come from the Eastern Conference. So what does that tell you? I'm not sure.
Right.
So I think you want to have an opportunity for a team to get to the playoffs in that region and then show improvement. So if you just have the best teams playing in the playoffs, I think that hurts the fans in those markets where maybe it's not quite as strong. So I do think that there is a value to having a division. To be able to say that you won an Atlantic division is worth something, and it does help in your seeding. So, no, I'm not necessarily in favor of scrapping it. Yes, there's some inequities, but that'll always be the case.
If you are the general manager of the Raptors sitting in this position right now, forget about the process, long-term development, otherwise, what's the one move that you are focused on right now that you think you need to make to improve this basketball team?
Well, I think they need to upgrade their talent level and
at a specific position, or
probably a wing position. You know, whether they Terrence Ross is good enough or not, I'm not sure. He's still a young player. Is he committed to getting better? Is he working on his game? Does he have the mindset to be a starting two-guy in this league? I think the jury's out on that. If you can find someone that can keep DeRozan in the starting lineup and also, then have a better matchup for the bigger small forwards, I think that was something I would be looking forward to. Valanciunas, I think, is still a young player with an upside. I think he's a very effective player.
People forget about his age.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure I'm the same age right now as Jonas Valanciunas. He's 23, is he not?
Something like that.
Yeah, he's around there. And I look at him and I see a 7-foot man with a beard bashing with Dwight Howard and some of the best centers in the league. And then I look at me and I go, why is everyone ripping on Jonas Valanciunas? Because he is in such a difficult position, right? And he kind of follows along, and from being there, the trend of highly drafted guy, doesn't matter whether it's Raptors, Leafs, Jays, otherwise, if you're a highly drafted prospect coming up, there are expectations that are sometimes far above what you can possibly achieve. Do you think he's been slotted into that characterization of, is there any time that Jonas Valanciunas can achieve what we need or what we expect of him, or is he just doomed based on the fact that Toronto sports media wants to eat anyone alive who has any kind of difficulty young in their career?
Well, he's sort of a divisive player in the media, right? Because half the people felt he should have played more, particularly in fourth quarters, and half the people felt he shouldn't have played at all.
People in the 500 sections thought that he should have played a little bit more too. I'll tell you that.
So no, I think he's a young player developing. Obviously, he's limited in terms of his athleticism, but he's a smart, tough, and skilled player. So I think there's a position for him. And you have to build a roster where he fits in, where you can compensate for his deficiencies and maximize the skills that he does have.
Well, we wish the Raptors all the best of luck, and again, I'm gone from Mac now, so I wish you all the best of luck as McMaster Athletics Director. I'm alumni, I am always there, but impartial on OUA today as I cover everyone. But I really do appreciate you joining, stopping by, because your insight on a variety of levels I think is very unique to the OUA situation. It's a lot of fun to talk hoops with you because I've been a lifelong hoops head, as anyone who watches the show knows. So thank you for stopping by.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it, and we will be right back after the break, everyone. Continue to listen to OUA Today and follow us on OUA Today on Twitter, and also listen along on CFMU 93.3.